Hello and welcome to this session. Today we will continue with the good work that we have been doing thus far, and I'm so impressed with the learned participants who are doing all they can to improve their English. Some of them are already accomplished speakers, and yet they are trying to improve their English spoken skills. That shows their commitment. That shows how much they value in how much they value self-improvement and communication skills. And I'm sure by the time this training program gets over, each one of the participants would be a fluent speaker, not just a fluent speaker, but a speaker with comprehensive command over the language. Now, what is comprehensive command over the language? Would it mean that you can use the language in any way you want? Well, yes, that is the idea. But comprehensive would mean comprehensive in the context of what the present level of English is for a given participant. It'll probably be too much to expect that a person who is just about starting out would be speaking like a total pro at the end of 6 months. But yes, that person will be well ahead and well on his or her way to accomplishing that pro level. And I'm sure the kind of batch I'm dealing with presently, the kind of people, the kind of participants I have right now, all of them will be pro speakers by the time this course gets finished. So let's say hello to some of our participants, and then we start with a small presentation. Actually, not a small presentation. It's a bit of a longish presentation, but I'm sure you will bear with me. So let's say hello to some of our participants and then start this session in the right earnest. Let's move on and say hello to our learned participants. Here we go. All right. Okay. Good evening, Seema. Excuse me. Good evening, Seema. Seema, good
Good
evening.
evening, sir. Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. How
How
are
are
you?
I am fine. How are you?
I am also fine, sir.
All right. How's the practice going? Sorry. How's the practice going?
Sir, practice is going also fine.
Good.
We are doing at daily basis, uh, poetry talk or shadowing exercise and
Brilliant.
spontaneous speech as well. I just skip yesterday's task only due to I have so much headache yesterday. That's why I didn't do that. And but still I have tried day before yesterday, so it's fine. It's going on at
Well,
my level.
I can understand, Seema, that you being a teacher like myself have a lot of responsibilities, right? The very craft of teaching, and I call teaching an art. And I believe you also share the same feelings, share the same thoughts. Teaching is an art. And when you act like a true educationist, someone who's willing to deliver value to the participants, to the students, then you have to get completely involved in the art of teaching. And since you are a teacher of that caliber, I'm sure you obviously have too many things to handle. Alongside all that responsibility, alongside all the loads of things that you have to do, you are doing this training program. That itself is indicative of your sincerity, your commitment to improvement, your commitment to yourself, and your commitment to everybody else. So I truly admire what you're doing. And
Thank you, sir.
okay, you did miss one exercise, doesn't matter. Try
Yes,
and be regular with it. Although I know you have lots of responsibilities, but in future, try and not miss out on any exercise, right? Regardless of all the duties that you're discharging. Okay.
yes, sir.
So,
I actually, I truly have so much belief in yourself as well, and I can't. Uh, Sorry, I can't made you hopeless from my side
of,
because I just try my best and just I am doing. Actually, as I have also that kind of philosophy, sir, that I just give my 100% to the task which which given to me at home or at my workplace, and sincerely I try to do just at myself.
I
And
have
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. You are also a very great motivator to me. And seriously, your efforts always push me to do my work regularly. So thank you so much, sir.
thank you, Seema. I feel very humbled and honored. Uh, your kind words are certainly well taken, and I'm sure that this course is going to add on to your skills. You're already a skillful teacher, but and your communication is also strong. But I believe by doing this training program, you'll be able to add on to what you have, and you'll become even better, right? And
Surely, sir.
I'm sure you have scores of fans, but that what do you call the quota of or not the quota really, that that collection, that number of fans is definitely going to grow up. It's going to expand, and you'll find even more popularity and recognition and contentment by the dint of your skills. Thank you so much, Seema, for being a part of this training program. Okay,
Thank you,
I'll
sir.
thank you. I'll say hello to one more participant before moving on to the to what we have to do today. Right. So let's say hello to Sushmita. Sushmita, good evening.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
How are you?
Sir, I'm good, but nowadays I'm quite busy because my SO has changed. So to tackle with a new person altogether in a new way, it's very difficult. And he's completely different from my previous SO, and he's like uh, quite a strict kind of person and not that helpful. So I'm handling with that in office, and it's like hectic days nowadays.
I understand, Sushmita. Change is not always welcome. And when you have people around you who are not cooperative and who probably are not empathetic enough to uh, your set of circumstances, your set of issues, then it becomes very difficult to work properly or even to handle the things that you are supposed to be handling in the office. But that's a part of the service. That's a part of what you're doing. And I'm sure a talented girl like you, somebody who's such a good communicator, and I really admire your communication skills. I've seen many of your videos, and I find your approach to public speaking truly admirable. Having said that, yes, changes do happen, and changes can sometimes be very hurtful. There are some people over there who would simply not be understanding enough. They will, for one reason or the other, do things which not just hurt the staff, but they also hurt the entire working mechanism, and the productivity levels come down. Unfortunately, Mukut, kindly mute yourself, my dear. Mukut, yes, thank you so much. So, Sushmita, it's a part of the game, right? You are in the service, you're doing public service, and I know you're a very, very devoted worker, and such things will happen, right? And probably it's a good idea to place yourself in the position of the person you are dealing with. Probably then you will understand what kind of issues he or she is having to deal with. And then there is a chance that you'll be able to establish a proper communion with that person, and probably you will change your ways, or you'll adapt yourself to the kind of things that he or she is comfortable with, and in that way things will move in the right direction. With that said, let's move on to
So I have something to ask.
sure, go ahead,
So,
Sushmita.
so I want to know how you manage like office and then these kind of things, because I also want to do a lot of things simultaneously, because I'm working in office and I have to do YouTube and I'm working on Instagram now, but I like it's very difficult for me to manage everything myself. So how do you do this, and how you are motivated in every time you are, how you are motivated like this?
Sushmita, there's something called pure attachment or pure love with the craft. Okay. And I'm first and foremost a writer and then a teacher, because if you take away writing from my life, I believe I'll cease to exist, because it is my writing that provides me with uh, the vital elements, probably oxygen. If you consider, if you let me call it some kind of an abstract and ethereal oxygen, probably that's, I'll be correct in saying that, because if I don't write, if a single day, if on a single day I miss out writing, I feel something has been taken away from my existence. So it's purely my love for writing that makes me write. But I take writing so seriously, although I write fiction, and I take it so seriously that no matter what happens, I ensure that I put in those 1,000 or 1,500 words every day. Sometimes you cannot write 1,000 words a day because your mind is cluttered with ideas which do not facilitate good writing. Sometimes you have ideas, but those ideas don't get translated into words. But still, you have to sit at your laptop, or you have to sit with your notebook to write. So it is my love for writing that makes me a regular with that craft. And teaching, if you ask me what motivates me to teach, teaching is my second love, right? By teaching, I feel I get so much of satisfaction and contentment that no amount of money, no amount of wealth, no amount, I mean, uh, regardless of how huge a treasure you place before me, that will never be able to come even close to the kind of contentment that I get from teaching. As I just said a while back, um, when I was talking to Seema, that teaching is an art. And I practice this art with all dedication and devotion to the best of my abilities. I don't know, sometimes it works, sometimes it sits well with the participants, sometimes it doesn't sit well with the participants. But from my side, I try my best. And the third thing is uh, is creativity at large. Any kind of creative pursuit attracts me, be it photography, be it making videos, be it recording my voice, be it because I'm a voiceover artist as well. And I love to voice my own stories as well as love to voice documentaries. I've done plenty of them. So that is again an area of interest for me. And when I say an area of interest for me, I mean I'm passionate about it. Long back in uh, 2000, 2005 or 2006, I believe, when I was simply a writer. Those days, I was just writing movies, I was writing documentary films, but I never did my voice. I never uh, got into the role of a voiceover artist. So there's this great man, probably it's not good to name him. I was sitting outside in the control room and he was in the voiceover chamber and he was voicing one of the scripts that I had written. And then at one point of time, there was one particular thing that he didn't say correctly. The pronunciation wasn't correct, right? So in all humility, I spoke to him because he was already a senior voiceover artist. And I told him that probably there were certain syllables which he missed out. And the word should have been pronounced in a different way. And he was so happy. Right. Some other person could have gotten offended, but he was happy. And after he came out, after he recorded the script, the voiceover, the narration for the documentary film, when he came out, he said that, "Are you aware that you can do voiceover too?" But I wasn't sure that I could do it. But then when I started doing it, because my producer was very keen on taking my voice, and when I started doing, I know I don't have a huge base. But somehow, some filmmakers, the ones whom I have worked with, have found my voice appealing. And that is how my voiceover career started, right? Never for money, only for creative satisfaction. And I'm here before you today with hundreds of films to my credit in which I worked as a voiceover artist. And I love to record my podcast as well. So you talk about writing, fiction, primarily fiction, little bit of creative nonfiction. You talk about teaching, and you talk about voiceover artistry. These areas are so dear to me, Sushmita, and I love being in the realm of writing, the realm of teaching, and the realm of voiceover so much that I just do these things. And when you have that kind of love, you actually find time for the things, right? I'm sure you are also a hugely talented girl, probably much more with a pool of talents much bigger than that of mine. And surely you will excel one day. I mean, you have already started excelling. There are people who are following you, who look up to you as a role model. That's very good to see. And with time, you will be a very popular figure, probably a cult figure someday. People will look up to you and say, my goodness, Sushmita. Oh, yes, Sushmita Sharma.
Thank you so much for the good wishes.
Okay. And so since you're very passionate about creativity, I'm sure you will also do the same, and you'll find time for everything. All right. So I talked a lot more than I thought I would in the beginning of the class. Now let's do the presentation. Here we go. Just 1 second. My mouse has gotten defective, so I'm using the laptop mouse, so my movements might be somewhat cumbersome. And I request all of you, first of all, apologies for that, and I request all of you to bear with me. Okay, medium of instruction. All of you might have noted that I started out talking in English with each one of you. I could have started out in Hindi. I could have built your base in English by speaking in Hindi, and then slowly switched over to English. Would that be the correct approach? Well, no, that is not the correct approach. You have to start working right away in the language that you wish to learn. You already know English. You want to be a master orator. In order to become a master orator, you have to start working in English right away. If I had started telling you things in Hindi with the hope that someday all of you will be good enough to get into the spree of English language, that approach would be very foolhardy and faulty. And very unfortunately, that is the approach taken by most English teachers in the Indian schools. And probably that is the same approach taken in other non-native countries. Because I've read reports, I've read books in which they clearly suggest that the way English is delivered to students in non-native speaking countries, there they start with the native language and then they think of graduating to English. That is a very bad approach. You have to start with English and move on with English till the very end. Okay, just give me a second. There's something I need to do before I get back to this presentation. Okay, I'm back again. So can all of you see the screen? Can you see medium of instruction written? Facts and fiction? Somebody say yes?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Moving on. So what should be the medium of instruction for sessions such as these, the intent, the objective of which is to make the participants fluent speakers. What should be the medium of instruction? Which language should we be using at all times, right from the start till the very end? Obviously, the language that you want to specialize in. So which language? As usual, I'll read the content before you and then explain, but I'll be explaining very little today because most of what I have to tell you is there right on the screen. So which language? Communicating with students in their native language is a flawed teaching approach. If I had started in Hindi, probably there would never be a propitious time, a favorable time when I could switch over to English, because you would be used to communicating in Hindi. But the fact that we have started out in English has forced you, but I'm using the expression forced in the positive sense, has forced you to speak in English. Even if your English is not good enough, you are using that language. And that is very important to do if you want to be a good speaker. Do not expect to become great speakers of English by starting out in your native tongue. We could have started out in Punjabi or in Malayalam, in Tamil, in Bengali, in Hindi, in Egyptian, in Spanish, in French, right, in Portuguese. Would that help us? No. If we had started out in Hindi, then we would probably never find a proper time of transition, a point of transition where we could shift over from Hindi to English. That is why we have started out in English. So we learn English in English. We develop spoken English skills by communicating in English. We are not trying to develop spoken English skills by communicating in Hindi, because that approach is just not right. And as I said, that is the approach that most teachers follow in schools and colleges. And needless to say, it's a faulty approach, bad approach. So although it may be more comfortable and familiar for both parties, it ultimately does more harm than good. The teacher also being a non-native speaker, assuming that the teacher is a non-native speaker, and of course the learners are all non-native speakers, it becomes easier for them to communicate because they are using a tongue which both parties share. The learners are also comfortable in the native language. The teacher is comfortable in the native language, so that communication starts, and they keep hoping that someday they will be becoming masters of spoken English. That day never comes because they have started out wrong. If you start out wrong, you start out doing things in a language other than English, when your intent is to become great English orators, then I'm sorry to say, you will never be able to achieve your goal, because we have to start out with the language that we want to specialize in. All right, moving on. Effect of using the native language as the medium of instruction. So what is the effect? When students, I'll just read this all out together and then explain. When students are taught English in their native language, or what you may call the first language, they do not get the opportunity to practice their English skills. This can lead to several problems, such as speaking and writing with poor grammar, framing weak sentences, and not developing command over English words, phrases, and idioms. Additionally, non-native speakers may feel inhibited when trying to speak English in front of their classmates or teachers. All kinds of negative things happen when you start learning spoken English skills in a language other than English itself. The learners don't get the opportunity to communicate in English. You might have noted that I gave you the techniques first. I could have held back the techniques. I didn't do that. Why have I given you the 3 primal techniques for improvement? Spontaneous speech, shadowing, and of course, coterie talk. These are the techniques that can make you fluent speakers. Of course, there are things that we'll be doing other than these three techniques. We'll be doing essential grammar. We'll be doing a bit of ideation, a bit of dubbing, and if time permits, probably a bit of role plays as well. But all that will follow in due course of time. We cannot possibly wait for all those things to get over before we switch over into this next important phase, or the most important phase of learning spoken English skills, which is speaking in English, right? So you have already started speaking in English, and the grammar that you learn eventually, the other techniques that you learn subsequently, will only add on to the skills that you will be picking up as you practice speaking in English with your fellow learners and you practice the spontaneous and shadowing techniques. So you have already begun to speak in English, and thereafter the techniques, the remaining techniques are following. The best techniques are already available to you. Those are the techniques that you need to do. In fact, if you do not do anything else and just practice spontaneous shadowing and coterie talk, you will be good enough. But in order to make your English of the very highest order, in order to make it sound musical, I'll be giving you lessons on essential grammar and other important aspects of spoken English. But all that will follow. It doesn't mean that since we haven't started doing all that, or I haven't completed my lessons on all those topics, on all those subjects, you cannot speak in English. No, you have to begin to speak in English, and the techniques will follow. That is the correct approach to picking up spoken English skills, or should I say picking up good spoken English skills. And also remember this, that when you get used to speaking in a particular language with a fellow learner, it is not easy for you to suddenly switch over to English while communicating with him or her. You will not feel comfortable. There's some force, some voice in your mind which will say, oh my goodness, with this girl I've been talking in Hindi out and out. With this boy I have always been communicating in Hindi. Now, switching over to English is somewhat embarrassing. It is somewhat strange. It sounds and feels very weird. How can we switch over to English? So, because that inhibition can actually be very detrimental to the learning process, we have started out in English. You already have the techniques with you, the most important techniques. You are working on those techniques, and the rest of the things are following. That's it. That is our approach, which is the correct approach. Moving on. Stunted growth. Students need to learn English in a natural environment where they can make mistakes and practice their speaking and writing skills without feeling self-conscious. Forget about the writing skills right now, only focus on the speaking skills. Now, this is a free atmosphere. I have already told you that you are allowed to make mistakes, and you are allowed to make the most horrendous mistakes. Doesn't matter. All you need to do is to speak in English. Speak bad English, no problem. You speak very bad English, still no problem. You speak awful English, still no problem. But speak in English, right? You are allowed to make mistakes. You are here to make mistakes, right? Okay, so when teachers use their native language to explain English grammar or vocabulary, it does little for the learners to feel the language and ultimately stunts their growth as effective communicators. You know, you cannot feel a language enough till the time you are practicing that language, and practicing that language would mean speaking in that language. If you are not speaking enough, if you're not already in the practice mode, in the speaking mode, probably you are missing out the action. Not probably, actually you are missing out the action. You're missing out on the action that is vital to your growth as an English communicator. That's the reason why a teacher should start teaching English language or spoken English skills in English, not in any other language, not in the first language, right? That is one fundamental mistake which most teachers do. And it is not the mistake of the teachers. In fact, it is the mistake of the system. We have an arrangement of things whereby we start out in our first language expecting to become good orators in English by starting out in the first language, but that never happens. When you start out with the first language, you are always dependent on the first language. You don't actually become good English communicators. Okay, how can English be used as a medium of instruction? You might ask me how English can be used as a medium of instruction for teaching English conversation if the students have no or little idea of the language. Many people ask this question. So what is the answer? The answer is this: use of English in the class. I'll read out and then explain, as I've been doing thus far. When I say English should be used as a medium of instruction, it does not mean the native or first language shared by the teacher and the students cannot be used at all. Although all of you are reasonably good in English, there could arise certain situations where you are not completely clear about the words or expressions that have been used by one of the fellow participants or by your teacher. Under such circumstances, using the first language may be acceptable, but those should be rarities. Such events, such occurrences shouldn't be regular occurrences. Once in the blue moon, if you have to use your native language, native tongue, first language, to make a particular point clear, then that's okay. But you cannot possibly be speaking in the first language at all times. In the garb of picking up spoken English gradually by starting out in the native tongue. Doesn't work that way. So what does use of English in the class mean? All it means is the teacher should use the first language or native language as less as possible. Exactly what I said now. Use the native tongue as less as possible, as little as possible. Putting it differently, the use of English in a class of non-native speakers means maximum use of English. And the use of English should be increased as the training program progresses. Probably a time will come when all in the classroom will just be talking in English. There could be some shy speakers. Just give me a minute, please. Just give me a minute. So when you constantly use English, there comes a time when English will feel very natural. Why do you feel the inhibition when you have to shift from your native tongue to English while talking to a fellow friend, fellow co-learner, probably a family member? Start talking in English with your partner, or with your son, or with your friend, with your sister, with your brother. It'll not feel very comfortable. Why not? It'll feel awkward. It'll feel embarrassing, sometimes even very funny, humorous, weird, because we are not receptive to changes. And suddenly changing the medium of communication can feel very different, very, very weird, very odd. And that is why it is not comfortable to switch over to English from the native tongue. It is with the view to kill such inhibitions that we have started communicating in English already. Howsoever bad or good our English may be, doesn't matter. Speak in English. Okay, moving on now. So immersing oneself in English. What does immersing oneself in English mean? In order to become proficient English speakers, students must immerse themselves in the language. Well, we know, I've just said you must immerse yourself in the language, but how? They should be encouraged to use it as often as possible. This can only happen when the teachers use English as the medium of instruction in the classroom. That's exactly what I've been doing. I've been using English, and already you all learners are speaking in English, right? Some are speaking very good English, some are speaking not too good kind of English, but well, you're speaking in English nonetheless. By speaking in their native language beyond the degree of necessity, teachers don't just deprive their students of the opportunity to learn good English, but also send the negative message that non-natives cannot quite bring themselves to master the language. When you start out in your native tongue, there's a kind of a message that is being sent to all the learners. What is that message? Hey, you are a non-native speaker, so you're not good with English, and that is the reason why things haven't started in English. Things have started out in the native language because you're good at that language and not good at English. And probably starting out in English wasn't possible since you are not good at it. So that kind of negative messaging can really damage the learning process. Thankfully, we are not following that faulty approach. A story you should know. Well, this is my story. And I hope you excuse me for talking about myself, but you know, your teacher's example can be a good example for all of you. All of you should feel motivated that if I have brought myself to some position in English today from where I was at one point of time, anyone can do it, right? Because I was very bad at it. I don't say I'm very good at it right now, but I have certainly made improvement. I've certainly improved. And the biggest improvement, I believe, is the complete loss of the fear of speaking in English. I don't bother about making mistakes. I make mistakes in Bengali. I make mistakes in Hindi, right? I make mistakes in the other languages that I attempt to speak. So I can make mistakes in English. What is the big deal? No problem. So most of my English teachers taught us either in Hindi or Bengali, right? So what would the English teachers do? My English teachers in the schools that I studied in, they would teach English in either Hindi or in English. The result was practically not learning how to communicate in English in real life. Even though I managed to pass all my exams, I still wasn't confident enough to speak English with native or expert non-native speakers. Yes, written English was okay, not great, but okay. And I got good marks in English, but getting good marks in English doesn't translate into becoming a good speaker. And I was not a good speaker. I was very poor. So when I went for a debate competition at an English medium school in the heart of Delhi, I won't name the school, I realized how poor my language skills were. Boys and girls my age were speaking the language with great confidence. It was embarrassing. Just in case you wish to know how I performed at the competition, I lost. I lost miserably. I could deliver the speech. I could deliver the speech that I had memorized, that I had committed to my memory earlier, and I could blabber out all that. But when the questioning session happened, when people started asking me questions on the content of what I had spoken, on the content of my speech, then I found myself so incapable, so much lacking in the English language, that I could not give a single satisfactory answer. Probably the answers were known to me, but I did not have the verbal abilities to express them. My thoughts remained thoughts. They never manifested in the shape of spoken words because I could not give them shape. I was incapable of translating my thoughts into English, into verbal English, that is. So I stood no chance before those boys and girls. Which boys and girls? The boys and girls who were around me and who were speaking great English. Or so I thought. When I look back, I feel that they were also not speaking good English because most of their English was slangish in nature. Not the kind of English that I would appreciate, not the kind of English any non-native expert speaker or a good native speaker would appreciate. So their language was sounding good or fluent, but it was fluent maybe, but very slangish in nature. Such English is not acceptable to anyone who likes classic English, right? So in retrospective, when I look back at things, I feel they were not good speakers, but for me, they were too good. So I stood no chance before those boys and girls. Since I had memorized my speech, I presented it well. However, I messed up in the question and answer session. My responses clearly showed my low confidence levels and my inability to speak good English. I was a very bad speaker. And that was middle school. I was such a bad speaker. Just couldn't express my thoughts in words. Didn't have that prowess in English. Didn't even have that limited amount of command over English language so as to be able to express my thoughts in English. Couldn't do it. And I messed it up and lost. So this was an eye-opener. But it was an eye-opener for me. I knew I had to do something substantive about my spoken English skills. You know, you should learn from your defeats. You should learn from your mistakes. Luckily, I had the wisdom to not feel too discouraged so as to give up. I took it as a challenge. And I decided to improve my English and started learning from my weaknesses, from all the weaknesses and defeats and the messes that I made up, that I actually made at the debate competition. And I knew I had to do something substantive, something weighty in order to become a better English speaker. So what were my attempts? What kind of attempts did I make to learn English? I started by taking some basic English classes. However, that didn't help me much because the focus was on grammar and vocabulary rather than on how to communicate in English. The typical mistakes that teachers make, the typical mistakes that most English training programs or spoken English training programs are laden with, were offered to me. And as a student, I tried following those faulty techniques to learn English. Didn't help me in the least. I needed to learn how to speak the language fluently and not just know how its grammar works and not just know its grammar rules. So I bought a training that promised to make the readers more fluent in English, but that didn't help either. It only added to my bag of confusion. Now, very often you find teachers talking about grammar, a lot of grammar that is not required. You don't need to have a very clear understanding of compound clauses or complex clauses or moods or the participles in order to be able to communicate well. Grammar or good knowledge of grammar does not make you a great speaker. Yes, grammar is important, but grammar is not all that you need to speak English. In fact, grammar forms a rather insignificant part of the of this spoken English arrangement, right? Because your mind coordinates with your vocal apparatus, and you have to speak well because you must have a natural flair for it. Either you have a natural flair for it or you develop a flair for that language. You acquire those skills and you acquire them with so much of practice that the language starts coming to you as naturally as it comes to a native speaker. That is where the secret lies. Learning a lot of grammar, well, doesn't help. So we will also be learning grammar. There will be several sessions on grammar, essential grammar. But we learn only that much of grammar which you need to speak great English. We will not be doing all that superfluous things of grammar. that do not make you a good speaker at all. They don't have any they don't make any contribution whatsoever when it comes to spoken English. We'll not do all that. We'll do only that much, which helps us emerge as better speakers. Okay, moving on. Why the early attempts failed? I'll just read this out and not explain much, because I believe what is there on the screen is self-explanatory, and I don't need to explain anything beyond what is written over here. So one of the primary reasons the training wasn't effective was that it tried to teach the readers English by explaining most of the stuff in Hindi. You teach somebody English by speaking in Hindi, how will that person pick up English? Maybe when the language is being introduced, you can use the native tongue. When you teach the alphabet, when you teach ABCD, probably at that time, use of native language is good. But I'm sorry, if you're teaching somebody who's somewhat versed with English, spoken English skills by starting out in Hindi or the native tongue that is common between the teacher and the students, you don't end up doing anything constructive. No, that is not the way to go. Yes, that is not the way to go. Regardless of how hard the English communication teacher or a training resource presented through a training or software attempts to improve your skills, you will hardly make any headway if a language other than English is used as the medium of instruction. I guess this needs no further elaboration because I've spoken enough on this matter. Moving on. I was on my own. When these courses did not help, I decided to become my own guru. Did it work? Let's see. Then I decided to find my own way in English. Yes, I had to teach myself the language. The onus was on me to make myself an effective oral communicator in English, and I'm glad to say that it worked. How did I do it? I started by watching English movies and TV shows with subtitles. I also read many English dailies and magazines. By doing this, I understood the language better, how it is spoken and written. I also started listening to English songs. The more I listened to them, the better my understanding of the language became. I'm not suggesting that I became an expert by these methods, but yes, these techniques, these methods were working better than the traditional methods used by teachers of teaching a lot of grammar, speaking in the native tongue. All that do not help. Moving on. Again, some issue with the presentation. This keeps happening. Okay. Other endeavors that helped. Well, what I started out, my own techniques, of course, helped me. And then there were other things, all other approaches also that helped me. What were the other endeavors involved? Another thing that helped me was talking to good English speakers as much as possible. Of course, it was not easy initially because my confidence level was shallow. But with time, my confidence levels grew. And so did my ability to communicate effectively in English. Now, why are you doing coterie talk? You are doing coterie talk precisely because of this reason. You have already started speaking in English. You might feel your English is not good, but regardless of how good or bad it is, you are using the language. You are using the language. Maybe you are not using it in a manner that would give you satisfaction, that would give you happiness, but you are using the language. Even if you are speaking incorrectly, although we'll see later that there is nothing such as correct English or incorrect English, that is a subject that I'll address later. But at least you are speaking in English. That's what matters. You have started speaking in English. That is how coterie talk helps. Coterie talk is helping you because you have started speaking in English with other fellow learners. It's giving you vital practice. Okay. So my English improved, but what? Well, although I had improved my skills, I was still far from being what you would call an excellent communicator in English. The techniques I had practiced thus far were good, but not enough to take me to the next level. I was speaking good English, but I had not graduated to the level of a pro speaker. I was far away from that level. I spoke okay English, just about okay English. You could call that maybe average English or average minus English. But I was speaking in English. That also is a very, very important thing to do. But I had not become a pro. Then what happened? I was now in need of strategies that helped me improve my language abilities by leaps and bounds. By now, I had realized that conventional methods of learning how to speak in English wouldn't take me too far. I knew that the methods that were taken by my teachers, or even the methods that I was practicing on my own, would not take me far. They were helping me, yes, but they were not taking me far. They were not pushing me to that point of excellence. So what could I do? Only if I had some magical techniques that could make me a better speaker. So I was looking for some magical techniques. And my techniques, what are my techniques? Believe it or not, I developed my own techniques and they worked for me. So you could say I made my own magic. This is not to suggest that I invented these techniques or that no one ever used these techniques before me. Having said that, let me make another point in this regard. I am not sure if anyone other than myself used these techniques to improve one's own or others' language skills. Over the next 30 years or so, during which I taught spoken English to my students from all over the world, I fine-tuned these techniques by trial and error. Now, let me tell you very categorically that I do not claim originality or any kind of right over the techniques that I'm teaching. I started doing those techniques and later got to know that such techniques exist. But that does not mean that I invented those techniques. I'm not making such tall claims at all. But these techniques worked. These techniques were really magical. And yes, I did meet great orators and gurus who helped me become a better speaker. Well, moving on. Existing effective techniques. Eventually, I learned about other effective techniques that could help. And one of the existing and time-tested techniques rocketed my English to a different level altogether. This technique was better than the technique I developed. And what technique am I talking about here? I learned shadowing from a guru. One great guru, one selfless guru, taught me shadowing. And she said that these techniques should be available to everyone. Why everyone? Because they help people become better communicators in English. And when people speak good English, they will not just feel confident about themselves, they'll also be able to better articulate their needs. And given the fact that, well, you like it or not, given the fact that English does have a status symbol attached to it in many countries, you feel good when you speak the language well. And shadowing that I learned from some of these, from my guru and subsequently from other gurus, really skyrocketed my English. It made my English so much better. I combined my techniques and the other existing effective techniques and trained myself for months. Now, it's not important for me here to tell you what are the techniques that I developed on my own and what are the techniques that I learned from my gurus. That's not important. What is important for you to know is which techniques work and which do not work. After having taught English communication for such a long time, I'm pretty clear as to which techniques are effective and which techniques are not too effective. So please rest assured that you are in the right place and you are doing the right things. You can see the results today. Well, I'm right before you and my English is not that bad, is it? Okay, so given the fact that I'm teaching English, spoken English, to so many, even to the media people who are supposed celebs, I don't think anybody is a celeb, but then people call them celebs. So to the supposed celebs, I taught English, spoken English skills to the supposed celebs as well. And they improved by following these techniques. So these techniques do have some magic in them, but the magic works only when you practice. You will soon see, as you practice coterie talk, shadowing and spontaneous speech, duly supplemented by Just give me a second, please. Duly supplemented, duly supported by the other methods, right? You will find yourself in a place whereby you will be able to twist and turn the language the way you want. You'll be able to express your thoughts with total clarity. And that is why these techniques are very important. At one point of time, you'll find that you have actually leaped in a quantum fashion. You have jumped from one point to another point, which is far above the point from which you jumped. So that quantum leap will also come as you practice these three techniques. And of course, supplement them, support them with the other things that we do in this training program. So more on the medium of instruction. Sorry, I'm stuttering a little, probably because I've been traveling too much, didn't get good rest. So that is why I'm stuttering. So I hope you will excuse me for that. So getting back to the subject of the medium of instruction for teaching English, let me again put it plain and simple. The use of the native tongue as a medium of instruction will not work. Such practices often block the students' natural growth as English speakers. Very important for you to understand this. Reverting to the first language. It is common to observe that while speaking in English, many non-native speakers find themselves reverting to their first language when they're tired or stressed. This is because speaking in a foreign language can be taxing on the brain and can often lead to mistakes. What happens is you speak in English and you suddenly feel that you're not getting the right kind of expressions. You're unable to convey your thoughts with clarity. And then what you do, you mix up your English with some expressions in native tongue. Never do that. Never do that. Even if you are unable to express yourself in English, that is acceptable. But for goodness sake, do not mix it up with your native language. Do not use your native language when you fall short of words and sentences. When you find yourself completely incapable of conveying your thoughts in English, do not revert to the first language. Never do that. Otherwise, you'll not improve. That struggle, the struggle with your own self to speak those words, to speak those ideas in English, to say those abstract thoughts in English, is the struggle that will make you better. If you're not willing to give in that, if you're not willing to take that struggle, you cannot improve in English. Many people kill that struggle by using native language and try to support what they are speaking in English by using some native expressions. That is not how things work. Your English will not improve if you start speaking in a mixture language, or what we call khichdi language in Hindi. Part English, part Hindi. No, not done. Full English, 100% English, even if you are unable to express yourself properly. Fear of making mistakes? Well, some non-native speakers also avoid using certain words or phrases in English because they are afraid of making a mistake. This further hinders their ability to improve English skills. They feel, what will happen if we speak in incorrect English? What will those people think about me who are listening to me? What will my listeners, what kind of impression my listeners will have about me if I speak in incorrect English? Without realizing that actually there is nothing such as correct or incorrect English. And for that purpose, there is no version of a language that can be called perennially correct or perennially incorrect. Why so? Let's find out. I assume you understand basic English. As for the medium of instruction for this training, I will safely assume that you understand simple English. At least you know enough to make sense of the lines you are reading or listening to now, that is, and the instructions and methodologies that will follow. You have already started out with the 3 primal techniques. Other techniques will follow. If you were a total blank in English, you wouldn't follow these lines, would you? Of course, you are not a total blank in English. So you are in the right place. Your English is good enough to be improved. Your English is good enough to be worked upon. It is my job to work upon your English, and it is your job to improve it by constant practice. Constant practice means constant practice. Doesn't matter what work you have. Doesn't matter how important you think that work is, except for, and God forbid, medical emergencies. Do not ever miss out on practice. All these 3 techniques should be practiced every day. Every day. Okay. Now, benefits of spoken English. One of the main benefits of speaking English, I'll just read this out and not explain because I believe I've spoken about it in some of the earlier sessions, and I've made my points clear. But since it's not a good idea to miss a slide, let's at least read the contents. One of the main benefits of speaking English is that it can help you advance your career. Many employers prefer to hire employees proficient in English, so learning how to speak English fluently will give you a competitive edge in the job market. In addition, speaking English can also help you communicate with people from other parts of the world. By learning how to speak English, you will be able to connect with people from all over the globe and experience different cultures. And they'll be so impressed when you speak great English. The native English speakers might wonder as to how you speak their language better than they. Please reach that pedestal whereby you actually speak English better than the native speakers. Aspire to be on that pedestal. Aspire to be that proficient in English. Moving on. Your beautiful journey to grow to, just 1 second, please. So your beautiful journey to great spoken English skills. It has started, right? Learning English can be difficult, but it is definitely worth the effort. This training will help you overcome any challenges you may face and give you the confidence you need to speak English fluently. You know what I mean. Come on, take the challenge. Are you ready for the challenges? Then let's get started. Well, we have already started. We have started with the 3 primal techniques, and that brings us to the end of the presentation. And I get back to my learned participants. Okay, here we go. So we have been studying for more than an hour now, and I have been doing most of the talking. Now it is the turn for 2 of the learned participants to make spontaneous speeches. Right? It is good to do. You are all practicing spontaneous speech. It's a very good thing all of you are doing. All of you are doing very well. But in order to kill the fear of public speaking, let's do it before the co-learners. The other day we saw 2 of our learned participants present beautiful speeches. They did not look uncomfortable at all speaking in the public, right? That is the kind of confidence you also need to exude. So who will be doing the first spontaneous speech for today? Let me choose. All right. Let's start with Sneha, right? Sneha, be ready for making a speech. Do not worry about what you're saying. Say it. Say it. That's what matters. Before we start, unmute yourselves and give a huge round of applause for Sneha. All of you, please clap your hands together. Clap, all of you. All of you. That's, yes. Harder, properly. Okay. You people are acting very miserly. I'm sorry. You're acting very miserly. Clap well. Yes. Yes. Good. Good. Thank you. Okay, Sneha. I will
Yes,
start
sir.
your time. I'll start your time and I'll give you the topic. Okay. I can give you a very weird topic. Don't be afraid. Right?
I tried, sir.
Okay. Try speaking.
Can I hide
Yeah.
my video?
You want what? Didn't get you. Sorry.
Hide my video?
5-minute break you want?
No. I
Yeah.
just want to hide my video.
No, you'll not do that. No, don't do that, Sneha. Don't do anything negative. Don't do anything negative. Come out. In fact, you will be
Okay.
visible to the entire world now, right? Because I'm giving you the speaker interface. It's all you and nobody else now, right? Your topic, Sneha, is eating pumpkins. Eating pumpkins. Start.
Uh, Eating pumpkins is a good thing because I know pumpkins is a very sweet fruit, and we know lots of dishes which we make from pumpkins, and and pumpkin seed is also very good for us. Reason behind, I think pumpkin seeds give us calcium, which is very good for our health and for our uh, bones or bones. And pumpkins, in many countries we saw the Halloween festival, in which uh, they put pumpkin face outside their houses, making two eyes and some weird mouth. That is a symbol of they celebrate um, Halloween Day, in which they celebrate the they trying to make their faces like like monsters. Uh, uh, Before Halloween, not so famous before, but nowadays I can feel it's very famous in India also, in other countries also. Uh, I don't have much to say about this, about pumpkin, and I know one song about pumpkin. You're my pumpkin, pumpkin, I know bunny, and pumpkin. Uh, uh, I don't know much thing about pumpkin. Uh, Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. Pumpkin. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. Striking me. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. I don't know about pumpkin. Much more about this. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. Uh, Nothing is striking me. I don't know about anything about pumpkin. Pumpkin is we say it's a fruit also. I don't know. It's a vegetable some kind, and some say it's fruits also. Uh, Nothing is striking me. 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 Pumpkin is a vegetable which we mostly found in summers, uh, and it's a big fruit. It's a big vegetable in size, uh, and there are lots of seeds inside the pumpkin. People make uh, pumpkin mm, pumpkin dishes, uh, like sabzi, pumpkin sabzi. What can I say? Uh, mm, Nothing is striking me. 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 I can also see some pumpkin chips. I don't know how to express my feelings in words, and nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. I just want to how time passed. I don't have much thing about in my mind. Really sorry. Very apologize for this. I don't have anything to say about this. I'm very nervous. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. I'm very shameful. Feeling very shameful. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. Okay. It's striking. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. Nothing is striking me. So sorry, sir. I don't have anything in my mind. What can I do? Nothing is striking me. Pumpkin. Pumpkin is yellow in yellow color.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the talk. Give her a huge round of applause, all of you, all of you.
And no, sir. I don't
That is
do this.
that is for me to decide, right? I gave you a difficult topic, right? And you have just started out with this. If you were an expert speaker, then you would construct stories around the pumpkin. For example, my team member says, it happens, right? What does my team member say? And she says, it happens, it's okay. No reason to be shameful. Why should you be shameful? My goodness, for goodness sake. You are just trying to make a speech on a subject that is pretty alien to you, right? But you can always construct stories. I'm telling you tricks. Always construct stories this way. Eating pumpkin is good, but one day when I cut open a pumpkin, I found a Lilliput inside it, and that Lilliput came out and said, "Why have you destroyed my home?" I said, "Oh, my dear, I didn't know that you were inside, but at least be happy that I haven't cut you. I haven't caused any harm to you." And then the Lilliput said, "No, but you have destroyed my home. Can you put this pumpkin back?" And I wondered, what could I do? And yes, somehow I managed to put the pumpkin back, put some adhesive tapes on the surface, and the Lilliput seemed to be happy. But before I could cut open the next pumpkin, I wondered what would happen to a creature if it was lying in the core. This is a kind of, you can just make a story. Make a story, and speak like this. Trick. I'm teaching you a trick today. What kind of trick? A very simple trick. How to lengthen your speech, how to keep speaking. Why are we at a loss when we are delivering a speech? At a loss of ideas, that is. Because
Yes, sir.
our brain does not generate ideas all that easily. But there is a very lovely way of generating ideas. And let me tell you what that lovely way is. Those of you who have done my live classes know this technique. And Sneha didn't know this technique before she made the speech, so probably she could not take advantage of it. But the next speaker will get the advantage of it. And Sneha, you did a good job. Make no mistake. You did a good job, right? You spoke well. You really spoke well. Okay. Now the technique is simple. Sneha, you will tell me what I'm doing. Give me a sentence. Just give me any random damn sentence. Give me. Go ahead. Any sentence. I'll repeat your sentence and then I'll do something with that sentence. Let's see. Give me a sentence. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Eating vegetable is a good habit or not?
A question often hovers in my mind, whether eating vegetables is a good thing or not. Vegetables, doctors say, are very nutritious. But can doctors be trusted at all times? Trust is missing in the contemporary world, in the world that we called modernity. But what is modernity made of? Is modernity to be defined by some stupid supposed liberal activities like smoking and drinking and speaking a slangish language. Language has to be sweet and lucid for everybody to listen to. Music is very lucid, isn't it? And any soul, even if it is a rusty one, enjoys music. Do souls exist? Often Buddhists will pose these questions. If you ask me, questions are good. But sometimes certain questions, when dragged too far, can actually have an impact on the learning process. I remember the impact of a bottle falling on my shoulders when I was a child. Every child has his or her own set of problems that he or she possibly cannot express because the elders are never willing to listen. Listening is a great art because it gives you so much to gather. Gathering wealth beyond the point is probably stupidity, because it is the soul that you have to feed. And wealth does not feed your soul. Feeding has to happen in a scientific manner, and some people say that 1 meal a day is enough. Meals must be taken on time. Someone who doesn't respect time cannot go too far. I end here. Tell me, Sneha, what have I done with your sentence? Let's see.
Yes, you start with my sentence, but you go to the another way.
What did I do? What did I do with the sentence? Tell me. What did I do with your sentence?
You start with my sentence and try to describe and go to the another way, another topic, start and mix your way to express.
Okay, so possibly, correct me if I'm wrong, possibly what you are trying to tell me is, I speak one sentence, then use some word or expression from that sentence
Yes,
to generate the next sentence.
yes,
Then I
yes,
use some expression or word of the next sentence to
yes,
form the next to next sentence.
yes.
And I have a series of sentences following, because one sentence, the present sentence that I'm speaking, becomes the source of the next sentence. Understanding?
Yes, yes,
This is how definitely you can lengthen your speech, my dear. It's that simple. If you know how to construct sentences with words and expressions, you can easily speak for as long as you want. Just keep making sentences. Okay, let me pick up this word. Let me pick up this expression and make the next sentence. And I go on and on and on and on and on like this. That's how simple speaking is, right? So this method that I have just introduced to the learned participants is a method I call the linking method, because you are linking one sentence to the next sentence. Neha, am I clear? Have you understood what I've tried to say?
yes, sir.
All right. So let me write it down for you in words so that never again do you fall short of ideas. Here we go. Just 1 second. Here we go. I'm sharing my screen. Somebody please tell me if you can see that Word file that we have been using. Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
yes,
Oh,
sir.
good. Very good.
Yes, sir.
This file will soon become available to you and to all the learned participants who are watching this English training program or participating in this English training program by watching them as YouTube videos. So, linking method. What is the linking method? Number one, linking method is used to lengthen your speech or talk for as long as you desire. Number two, in this method, one sentence becomes the source of the next sentence. Third, pick up a word or expression from the present sentence and frame a sentence with that word or expression. The newly constructed sentence now becomes your raw material for the next sentence. Pick up a word or expression from the newly constructed sentence and frame a new sentence. In this way, you end up with a virtual, endless chain of sentences. So, whenever you are running short of ideas, let Mr. Linking Method come to your aid. Sneha, am I clear what you have to do? Understood?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes,
Is
sir.
it easy or is it difficult? You tell me.
Is it easy, sir?
It is easy, yes, but not to frighten you all, not to intimidate.
But
Yes, tell
we
me.
have to practice. I have to practice more so that I can
Of
speak
course, of course.
fluently.
You are already good. Sneha, make no mistakes. You are already very good. You just have to add finesse, and that finesse will come with time.
Yes, sir.
Don't feel bad about the performance in a given day, on a given day. See, your teacher also makes mistakes, and plenty of them. He doesn't bother. Why should you bother? Right? So I make miserable mistakes, the most terrible mistakes that you can imagine. But I don't worry about them. We are free to make mistakes, right? So you can use linking method when you want to. It is not necessary to use linking method when you are demonstrating spontaneous speech. If ideas are coming to you in a natural, in a spontaneous way, then it's good. If you get stuck, and you get stuck like hell, then you employ the linking method. Linking method should be the last resort and not something which should be commonly used for spontaneous speech. Have I made my point clear? All right. Now the next person. Okay, some of you have run away, I see. What is this? The next person I thought would deliver the speech is gone. Not a good, or maybe they are not gone. They have lost connection. I shouldn't be assuming that they are gone. So the next speech for today will be delivered by Kirti. Kirti, get ready for the speech. And I'm giving you full screen. Do not worry. Feel free to make mistakes. Feel free to make mistakes. Okay? All right. So Kirti,
Mhm.
Kirti, you say hello once. Let me check up if you're...
Hello. Hello.
Good, good, good. Kirti, your topic is, as I started eating a mango, it turned into a banana. As I started eating a mango, it turned into a banana. Start.
Yes. Actually, I like mangoes. There are so many mangoes in the market. The cherry mango and langla mango, and there are so many. Their shapes are very different, and there are such mangoes are in green color, in such are in red color. They are in yellow, and I like all the mangoes. I like ripe mangoes, raw mangoes, and I also use in making vegetables, so many vegetables. and I like banana also. So, I like both the fruits, mangoes and bananas, and both are my favorite. And actually, banana gives boost our energy, and I always keep fasting. Banana always gives me lots of energy. So I like banana, and when I feel so weak in the morning, and if I'm not able to prepare my breakfast, then I always prefer to take bananas because bananas always gives you energy instantly. So I love bananas. And I always waiting for the summer season, and and there are so many mango trees in my village, and I also want to grow a mango plant and banana plant in my garden. There is no garden in my home because I was I'm re- reside I'm I have I have been allotted for second floor, so there is no garden. But in our when we were residing in Sarojini Nagar, then on the in there was a garden, so there was a banana tree as well as there was a mango tree, and then one day I feel one day that incident happened to me. I was in the kitchen, and I always like to prepare meals, and I'm very I'm very fond of cooking food. So I you know I I some recipes. I learned some recipes from the YouTubes. Then I one there is one recipe. There is a recipe of banana and mango. So I have no banana. There is only mango in my kitchen. Then when I start to cut the mango, when I start to cut the mango asked me not to cut me. Please take the banana and you can make the banana shape. Then I think no, I want to take to prepare mango shake, and actually my father also like mango shake. So I'm going to cut you and make to make banana mango shake. So sorry, mango shake. Then mango returned in a very angry mood, and he asked me. He said me, why are you always using me? And if you like me, then please you can use other food. You can use other fruits to make any recipe. And if your father wants banana mango shake, then please request to your father to get a to have a banana shake. So why are you not trying? please 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 convince your father. But no, I will make mango shake. So I will cut you. Then, then, but when I started to cut that mango, it becomes suddenly it becomes banana. I thought I was astounded, and I become so surprised. So, Mama, how can it be happened? Banana it was mango, and now it turned to a banana. How can it be possible? And there was nobody in my kitchen, and I was searching for somebody. What was happening to me? And am I living in a dream? And but no. I'm in my kitchen, and I am going to make mango shake. So I was cutting to cut the mango to make banana shake, but I was going to cut mango to prepare mango shake, but mango was not agree that I should cut it. So it requested me that I should not cut it. But when I'm not convinced and I started to cut that mango and it turned up to banana. Then oh my god! Now and then
Kirti,
how?
Kirti,
Yes.
that should do. That should do. Give her a huge round of applause, please. Please unmute yourselves and give her a huge round of applause. Don't be stingy. Don't be stingy. Harder, harder, harder. Okay. Well done.
I don't know what did I say. I don't know.
You don't need to know what you said. Okay, you said
Why
that.
what
That's
I
what
uttered
matters.
my words and wow, where I'm going,
Your
there was no
doesn't
idea.
matter, Kirti. That is what spontaneous speech is supposed to do. You spoke. I'm saying this to you with complete truthfulness that you are showing signs of a pro speaker, like Sneha, like Sushmita, like Sanjay, like Manisha. All of you are very bright learners. Brilliant speech. You have made brilliant speech. Your coterie partners are not available in the class today, right? So
Pallavi is there. Pallavi Singh is there.
Pallavi is there. Pallavi is there, but the boys are not there. Are the boys there today in the class? The boys are
No,
not there. Okay, please
I
encourage your
think
coterie members to attend classes regularly. Okay, it's important. And you did a very good job. Sneha did a very good job. And I'm sure that as we progress, I'll see some great speeches coming our way. So thank you very much. You youngsters are champs in my view. All of you are absolute packets of talent, packets of bundles of energy, bundles of limitless talent. And it is only a question of time before you unleash this talent and become pro orators, great orators, right? Fantastic performances by our learned participants, both Sneha and Kirti today. And of course, it was a very longish presentation and you very patiently listened to me. Thanks for that as well. Tomorrow, although I'm not in the favor of keeping classes during weekends, but since I'll be off again for a few days, tomorrow we'll have a mini session of about 1 hour where I'll tell you a little about coterie talk, and you will be watching some multimedia presentations, some humatars in action who will be talking to one another in model English. Why are these humatar animations? Why have these been prepared? These have been prepared for you to pick up cues as to what good English conversation is all about. You should see how these humatars listen to each other and then speak with clarity and speak slowly. I'll tell you in another class why is it important to speak slow. You don't have to speak very fast. Speak slow. Let every word register. Let every word become an island. That is how you need to speak. Very well done. I'm so impressed with all of you, right? And I have absolutely no doubts that I see a virtual room full of pro speakers today. Thank you very much. Take good care of yourselves. Tomorrow we meet at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. means 7 p.m. Right? Thank you so very much. Take care. Good night.
Good night, sir.
good night,
Good
sir.
night,
Good
sir.
night, sir.
Thank
Good
you,
night,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Good
Good night.
night.
Good night and thank you.
Good night.
Good night.